Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 42, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I'm your host, Vise the Bold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And Pyro Jack Frost.
And I am back from the dead.
Nah, Vice continues to be fired. If he ever talks, just completely talk over him, and despite the quality of the podcast going straight to hell, just see what happens.
It's actually a life model decoy we have that is a fake Vice.
There's like
it's only a model.
Yeah, there's like a crappy, cardboard box Vice. I work hard for the money, or real hard for the money. Just burst into flames.
The real Vice has a bunch of ravens circling around its corpse.
Ugh. Do you know
So
what
anyway,
they call a group of ravens?
A murder.
A murder.
Nope,
No, that's
crows. I actually don't
crows.
know what they call
That's
ravens.
Probably like a Congress or Senate or something.
Regicide.
I know it's a Congress of Apes or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there's some really interesting things like that. It's called a Congress or an unkindness.
Sure.
Yeah. I was on the right track there. Okay, cool. So, we have another great shoe. So I guess Pyro, take it away.
Alright, I mean, I've just been continuing the games that I've been playing. I've been playing more Persona 5. I started the 4th Palace, which is... I'm not that far into it, but I'm making my way through it. And I've been playing more Final Fantasy 14. And so they released... I mentioned this last time. They released patches between the main game and the first expansion. I'm about halfway through those patches. It's... I wouldn't say a long, a lot of stuff to do, because it is kind of fun, but I kind of just want to get it over with because I want to play the new stuff.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. But in all honesty, that's been my week, just continuing my games. I've been watching some shows, like catching up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and starting the new episodes of Doctor Who. But it's been pretty uneventful this week, if I'm being kind of honest. It's been pretty busy with other stuff.
Yeah, I think I had a couple weeks like that, where I just I just didn't do much in terms of what we do here for the podcast. It's just one of those things that hits us every once in a while.
Yeah, I've been there. I mean, I remember during some of the overly long podcasts, before we started splitting it up into corrective and reactive, there were times where I had 10 or 15 minutes, which is about standard length now, but this was next to other people's 30, 40 minute segments, and it's oh, well, okay. All right. I mean, as for me, it's kind of been the same. I can talk about mainly two things. One of them, surprise, is Isaac, but I actually got done stuff that I didn't think I would anytime soon. I had mentioned that I had such and such number of achievements left, except -2, because 2 of them were platinum achievements. Mm-hmm. I was half right in that regard. Here's the deal. I beat Ultra Hard. I beat the Ultra Hard challenge. That took forever. And actually, I really shouldn't have beaten it. I got super lucky, because what had happened was... like I said, you can use items that directly put health into your health meter, but if there's anything that would drop health items, it just doesn't happen. Health items don't exist in ultra hard mode. So whatever damage you take, unless you have an item that produces blue or black hearts for you, that's the damage you've taken. Too bad. And what you have to do is, like I had established before, make it all the way down to level 8, beat level 8, go down, specifically not up, down to Sheol, then go to the Dark Room, which is stage 10, and then you have to fight Mega Satan. Well, by the time I got to stage 10, I had, I think, 1 or 2 hits left, and I was not really confident about beating Mega Satan in that regard. But then I got super lucky, because... there are all sorts of tarot cards you can find in the game, and some cards outside of that. There are 2 of each of the suit, 2 of clubs, 2 of spades, and those produce, those regenerate. Your clubs does bombs, spades does keys, hearts restores your health, and it does do that directly, so that's a good item to have. And diamonds does coins. And there's also aces of those items, which turn every dropped item on the ground into those things, except of course an ace of hearts would just do nothing in this particular case. It would just make the items disappear and then replace them with nothing. But there's also the Joker, which has been around for a while, and what the Joker does is it immediately transports you to a devil room or an angel room. So when you beat a boss, a devil room or an angel room might spawn, and whatever one that is, the Joker can take you directly there. So, you know, okay, might as well see what happens. As it turned out, I was in the dark room, and it took me directly to an angel room, so that's what would have been there. Devil and angel rooms actually don't spawn naturally in Sheol or the dark room, because it's just past that point in the game, but the Joker card still works. So I went to an angel room. You're going to say something, Pyro?
Yeah, I was going to say, I find it interesting, because these are tarot cards, right? Because if I remember correctly...
Tarot cards plus some more, yeah.
Yeah, because no, if I was going to remember correctly, there are normal cards in a tarot deck. Like, they have the Death and Priestess and Empress, whatever, but they also have clubs, staves, wands, and coins. So I'm kind of wondering why they didn't just keep the tarot card theme. And for like the number cards and the Joker, they went to normal playing cards, because they could have done the Fool for the Joker if they wanted to.
That is true. I mean, there is a Fool card, but they don't have the tarot cards of suits. The reason they go with twos...
Oh, there aren't tarot cards of suits. It's there's the normal tarot cards, the 20 tarot cards that people are used to.
Oh, and it's like the four kings, right?
No, like, so the way that a normal tarot deck is, it's like those cards that people are used to, like the Empress, Emperor.
Yeah.
Like there's 20 cards in that, and then they also have 10 or 11 of each, maybe even a normal playing cards worth of suits. They have like the coin, 2 of coins, 3 of coins, the jack of, or the, it's not called the jack, it's called something else, the knave of coins,
right,
the queen of coins, and the king of coins. So like there's suits in a tarot deck, in like a real deck of cards. So I'm wondering why they didn't keep that whole theme and went to normal playing cards for these other abilities.
As far as theme, I don't know, but the twos work because they double what you have, or if you have nothing, give you 2 of them. And the aces are so good that they turn every item on the ground into a thing of its type, so that kind of makes sense in that regard, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I'm guessing more why they did 2 of diamonds and not 2 of coins. That's, I guess, my question.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that
probably for marketing.
Yeah, that I'm not sure.
Like, who knows what a 2 of coins is? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean that is true, but Isaac is like Coin City.
Yeah.
Although one thing that's kind of funny is that they have a Suicide King, which will instantly kill you, but spawn a ton of power-ups. So you're only supposed to use that if you have like an extra life. But anyway, so I went to the Angel Room with the Joker card, and I picked up. I think with Ultra Hard, you have like 4 curses on you, one of them being blindness, so I don't know what I'm going to pick up in the Angel Room. Not that it's ever going to be a bad thing, in the Angel Room at least, but it turns out it was an item called Sacred Heart, which greatly increases my damage output and gives my my projectiles light homing. But what I completely had forgotten about is that it completely restored my health, and I was like, oh my god, so I had 7 hearts, and I was actually finally able to beat Mega Satan and beat Ultra Hard, so that was super satisfying. And the other really cool thing I did was I actually managed to beat Ultra Greedier with the Lost. Now, when I first did Greed Mode runs, when it came to Blue Baby and the Lost, I would play the run as some other character, and I would grind away until I would find an item that when I die, I respawn as the Blue Baby or the Lost, and then I would just go up to Ultra Greed, get killed, and then spawn as that character in a previous room, and then I would have like an insta-kill item on me and just take him out. With Ultra Greedier, though, I actually did those runs legit. Like, I seriously beat Ultra Greedier the whole way through with the Lost and without an insta-kill item. It was the most satisfying thing. Like, I'm freaking done with all that stuff. Now, the last 2 achievements, I'm down to the last 2, both of them being Platinum, but I didn't unlock them yet, because one thing I forgot about is that I have to find every item in the game for the regular Platinum one to kick in, so the Super Platinum one will then kick in once I've gotten every other achievement in the game. So, at this point, I am down to 2 items. There are only 2 items in the entire game I need to find. Unfortunately, one of them is in an angel room. And I say that's unfortunate because when you beat a boss, maybe a devil room or an angel room will spawn. It's not even a given that they'll spawn at all. But if they do, it could be either. Except for the first time one spawns, in which case it is definitely a devil room. So I just have to hope for an angel room and then hope that it has that item. It's really frustrating. The other item I need is a minor power-up that, like, I need to activate it. So I basically need to pick it up and get hit a bunch of times until its effect kicks in, and then my item tally will go up. But other than that, like, outstanding challenges and everything, I've done it all. All I need to do is just go item finding at this point.
And that's always the most annoying.
Yeah, it's just cleanup at this point. So I am
I remember
nearly done.
In like Persona 4 Golden, because I platinumed that, but there was one achievement that was really annoying. There's a character called Rise in 4 who's basically your navigator.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't fight in combat, but she'll tell you like, oh, this enemy's weak against this, or she'll basically talk throughout the battle. But one of the achievements is here 250 different lines from her.
Oh no.
That's so dumb.
Yeah. So I had to go back into the game with like bad equipment, so I would get poisoned by guys or get put to sleep or like get hit with diseases just so I can hear her say a certain number of lines and unlock. And there's the same achievement is in Persona 5, so that's like one of the ones that I'm dreading having to get.
That's such a pain in the ass. So yeah, almost done with Isaac. It's really getting to that point. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is going to be a lot quicker. It's just the fact that semester's almost over. We're recording this on a Sunday, so tomorrow, Monday, or yesterday to the listeners when this thing goes up, is the last day of class. So I'll have that class's finals to grade, and I have the last couple of essays turned in from that particular class, and then 2 weeks later my Saturday class will wrap up. But I'm really getting to the end of the semester here and just doing cleanup for that too, effectively. Just grading the last of their stuff and getting ready to go to my supervisor, fold a review and tell everyone their grades, and then that'll kind of be it. It's just going through the motions at this point in terms of just procedure. So once I'm done grading, I think I'll finally be able to get back on the wagon and put up proper Let's Plays and stuff like that. So I hope to get to that soon as well. So that's effectively... I guess I'll throw in one last thing. I don't know how many times I mentioned it on the podcast, but I watch One Piece. I don't read it. So the people who read it are way the hell ahead of me.
Because you're a loser.
Reading's for losers, even though I'm an English major. So the people who read the manga are far ahead of me. And the anime is deliberately slowing its pace down so as not to catch up to the manga, so that does kind of get frustrating. But there was one thing that I thought was really cool that happened in the latest One Piece episode, and it's about one of the 4 pirate emperors' Big Mom. Like, there are 4 pirate emperors, and all of them have heard of the Straw Hat Crew at this point, which is kind of terrifying. But Big Mom is the one whom Luffy has actually called out and picked a fight with on the phone, to everybody's shock, including her own subordinates. They're like, are you out of your goddamn mind? And the reason I bring this up is that, well, 2 reasons. Number 1, again, yes, the anime is slower paced, but even so, Luffy picked a fight with her on the phone on episode 571, right? So yesterday, Big Mom finally showed herself, not to Luffy, but like the viewer gets to see what Big Mom looks like, because you'd never actually seen her before outside of a vague, shadowy figure. So she finally showed up now, but this was episode 786. It's been like 4 years. And like,
yeah, it's been on for a long time.
Like, One Piece plays the long game in terms of, like, you'll see a character and go, oh man, when does that character actually do something? And it'll take a long time, but they've never kept a character's appearance, like, I don't even know what she looks like, that secret for that long. Like, that's crazy. And what I thought was interesting is when you finally get to see what Big Mom looks like, what's she going to be doing? Is it going to be, something cool, or like, is it going to be really mundane because it would be kind of a funny anticlimax? Well, it turns out that What's going on in the plot, on a very basic level, is that one of Luffy's crew members, Sanji, has been... he went along willingly enough, but he's basically been captured because Big Mom wants to marry one of her daughters to him, so she can forge an alliance with his family, because as it turns out, his family is a pretty damn big deal, and we didn't know about this until very recently. So that's going on, and so when you first see Big Mom in the anime, it's literally a show-stopping number. Like, she has a whole song and dance with her crew regarding setting up a tea party and a wedding and getting a wedding cake together, and they're straight up singing about it, and everything is like, obviously it's an anime, obviously it's a freaking cartoon, but like, it was really cartoony. Like, we have like a smiling sun going around in circles singing along with people. Like, it's like, whoa. Like, everything's really like too pretty. Like, and like the trees are kind of bouncing up and down. Like, like one of the trees actually sings. It's like, what is going? It's a freaking like Alice in Wonderland. She even has a little White Rabbit henchman. But what offset the whole jolly nature, like, was that this, number one, the song was kind of in minor key, and number two, it's like a song about how they're going to need to like make the cake great and get all the ingredients and everything. And as they're shouting out each of the ingredients they need, it's like, do we have this kind? And it cuts to like the island where you would get that, and there's just mountains of corpses with one of her associates saying like, yep, got it. And it's just like, holy shit. And they're just like taking populations out for the purpose of getting like ingredients for a wedding cake. It's kind of amazing. Like, before you got to the whole song and dance number, it showed that Big Mom's crew was coming, and by crew I mean one person per island, and the entire island's military immediately mobilizes. They're like, I hear Big Mom's having a tea party. Like, oh fuck, like, we're all gonna die. And they do.
This has happened before.
Yeah, they know what that means. And like, I still don't know what the tea party is, but it's gonna be a freaking big deal. And obviously,
do you think maybe do you think maybe she might be attracted to Luffy because
No.
Not at all.
He was the one who like threatened her. So he's like the only person to ever do so.
She responded appropriately. It's like, I'll no, you want to fight me? I'll kick your ass. But like, no, she's actually for real. Like I said, marrying Sanji off to her daughter because Sanji's family is like a really big deal. Like, it's actually worth it for her, and she's a freaking emperor. So Sanji's family is like top tier. That's the reason. And obviously Luffy doesn't want that, so now he has two reasons to fight her. Number one, principle, and number two, this.
It gets crazier too, because I'm one of the people who reads the manga.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets crazier, and it is... I mean, it's funny, because I feel like I've said for most arcs that this is like the best arc so far.
Yeah, it does keep outdoing itself.
And it's cool because it's has a Dragon Ball Z thing, or a Dragon Ball thing, where all the characters keep getting stronger and stronger. Yeah. But at the same time, with One Piece, it doesn't feel like that's all there is.
Well,
the characters are growing, and because it's not just like, hey, I'm training to become more powerful, I'm actually learning how to use my powers better. Well, it doesn't feel as much of a power creep.
Well, not only that, but in Dragon Ball Z, like, by sheer coincidence, every enemy that comes to Earth happens to be stronger than the last one. Mm-hmm. With One Piece, you could play that game for the first few arcs, and Luffy has fought opponents that have been, like, way overpowered, and you won't see them until later. Like, it is possible to meet a new enemy and lose to him. But with One Piece, at this point, the places Luffy is going, or the places Luffy and his crew are going to, are ones that upper tier pirates are also seeking out. So it actually makes sense that the stronger enemies would be gravitating toward each other. Like, Luffy's not going back to like his hometown in the middle of freaking nowhere where nobody. It's basically a backwoods island that nobody cares about. Like, he actually went ahead and like. He went to Don Flamingo's kingdom and picked a fight with him. That would be why the strong guy's there, because Luffy sought him out, you know? And at this point, he's going directly to Big Mom, so yeah, you're gonna find stronger guys when they're under an emperor. Like, the logic actually makes sense. With Dragon Ball Z, like, what if Cell had come first? It would have been a freaking disaster, but they can't do that because then everybody would die and the plot would be over. The only other thing I wanted to mention, by the way, regarding Big Mom's tea party is that I don't know what it entails, but obviously, it's a big deal if all the surrounding islands are absolutely terrified of it. But even earlier, when Sanji was first taken hostage by one of Big Mom's subordinates, they had modified Sanji's poster from dead or alive to only alive because they really need him. So Sanji's aware that these guys really can't push him around in a direct sense, so they kind of have to be polite with him. But one thing I thought was interesting was that Big Mom's subordinate, who has a huge bounty, like, it's lower than Luffy's, but, he's considered in Luffy's league in terms of bounty, at least at the time they had first met. This guy, had given Sanji the wedding invitation, and Sanji was like, no, you could shove it up your ass. And the guy's like, well, look, based on the nature of your poster, I can't really force you to do anything, but please take my advice. You do not want to turn down a tea party invitation from Big Mom. It's just like, ugh. So I definitely look forward to seeing where this is going to go in however many freaking months, because, again, the anime is deliberately slow, but we'll see how it goes. But the song and dance number is something that you really can't get in the manga. Like, even if they do it, you can't actually hear it. So it was really interesting to see. And again, that's her first appearance. Like, that's a pretty good way to enter the series. So awesome. Yeah, all the more hyped. So that's been my week. How about you, Vice?
Okay, well, I have 2 weeks to catch up on here, so I have a little bit of it. The big, I guess, announcement is that I beat Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
I did so, beating all of the sub-missions that I had queued up. I didn't go seek out I didn't look up a guide to see, if there were any other sub-quests to do or anything like that. I didn't take a look at that. But I also did get all the shrines as well. That was actually the main thing I wanted to do before moving on. There's still plenty to do. Like, I could go back and upgrade all of the armor in the game, but I decided that I just wanted to move on with it because it was getting to be that time. So I did look up a guide to find the shrines that I was missing, because it really becomes like a needle in a haystack after a while, because you stop finding shrines that you can easily get to or easily find. But I was pretty careful not to look up how to reveal them. Like, I just looked at their locations just to get a good idea of where I should start hunting. So I still maintained, like, the spirit of it, I guess, in that I still wanted to solve the puzzles in order to get to the shrines, and also to solve the shrines themselves. So I had a really good time doing that. I thought the shrines were a great way of mitigating, the heart container pieces and that kind of thing, because it kind of takes the place of that in this game. And you can also use them for stamina upgrades as well, so that's why it's like that. So it was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed this game. I'm gonna go. This is one of those things where this is a tough thing to say because it just, like, recently happened. So you always kind of wonder whether you're having, like, the glasses of the new great experience happen. But I don't think so. I think I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is my favorite Zelda.
That's awesome.
It's definitely deserves it. It does everything that the old ones do well, but brings it into the new age of video games, and takes everything good about a lot of different other great games and makes it its own. It doesn't feel like it's stealing things, even though it kind of is. It's iterating on ideas of, like, other great games like Portal and Assassin's Creed, and even the Elder Scrolls games and things like that. It iterates on them, but it does it in its own style. And it's so freaking charming, and it still feels like a Zelda game, and it probably feels like the most Japanese Zelda game. Like,
why do you say that?
There are a lot of things that feel Japanese about the game. first of all, Kakariko Village is like an ancient, like a medieval Japanese village. Oh. It's patterned after one. There are dragons in the game that are very central to Japanese mythology. There are just like there are ninjas and ninja-inspired characters running around as well. And there are things like rice, and the way and the dishes even kind of seem like they're like of Japanese origin. As well, so it feels like a Japanese game, which I never really got that tone from Zelda before, because it was always kind of a like a medieval fantasy inspired game series, even though it was always produced by Japanese people.
Yeah, the castles looked rather Western style.
Yeah, and you're right.
I'm a Hyrule anyway. Like Hyrule Castle. They're
inspired by Tolkien, Tolkien lineage stuff, like D&D kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Always was that kind of thing. But this one had just like it felt more like Okami does.
Nice.
I don't know if you guys ever played Okami.
Yes, I never beat it, but that had such a great look to the game, and I loved the whole theme of it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like it's like that ink style, but it does have commonalities in its color palette. So the color palette and like the filter that's used on the world is kind of like a saturated primary color kind of deal, is very similar to Okami, and also the Japanese feel to it, and a lot of the music sounds Japanese. Like it's like a Japanese flair on old Zelda tunes, like particularly the Kakariko Village music and stuff like that. But the characters are so freaking charming, and that's one thing that Zelda has doubled down on ever since Ocarina of Time. It's kind of gotten better and better over time with it, and it every interaction with characters is a mini story, which is what Zelda's been good at for a while. Pretty much, like they kind of solidified that with Majora's Mask.
Yeah, with Ocarina of Time, characters existed effectively for little mini quests for like the Bigoron sword. It's like there's the Cuckoo Lady. She wants the blue cuckoo. It's like, all right, but like Majora's Mask, it really gave everybody an arc.
Well, at least with those, like, that was the start of things, you know what I mean? Like, each character was an individual in that game.
Yeah, you could tell their personality.
Unlike other games.
Yeah, like in Ocarina of Time, like, you could get Talon and Malon's personalities, but, like, okay, now you've talked to them, now you can play the rest of the game and never talk to them again, like you know who they are, but they had their moment. Like, Majora's Mask and onward is when things really, came to a head.
Yeah, I would even say that maybe there's roots of that in Link's Awakening as well, because a lot of the characters in that were individuals as well.
Okay.
But it kind of grew more and more with each successive title. And Skyward Sword, for all of its flaws, it's such a controversial game because the control scheme sucks, and so does the layout and how things are done in the game, but the actual dungeons themselves are a lot of fun, and the character arcs in that game are a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really good, and the story in that game is very good. But this one, it does everything well, and probably has the best instances of character progression in any other Zelda game. Zelda herself is a very human character. She is not just a princess. She is somebody who is powerful but still very vulnerable in the game. And the entirety of the memories are really about her struggling with the doubt that she has within herself to be the person that she's supposed to be, because she's a reincarnation of heroes of past, and she's having trouble living up to it. And in Zelda games, they've never really struggled with that. before. They've never really acknowledged it. But in this game, it acknowledges that there have been past Links and past Zeldas, and these characters have to be those people eventually, which is really, really cool way to address it.
Yeah, I think the closest they've come in that regard might have been, I guess, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, in terms of stuff has gone down in Hyrule before with, in Wind Waker, everything's been flooded. And in Twilight Princess, it's a bit subtle, but I guess the skeleton who trains you and teaches you new sword moves, it's implied that he was, I think, Ocarina of Time Link. Like the big clue is that he's left-handed, because Link is always left-handed unless you're playing the Wii version of Twilight Princess, because, statistically most players are right-handed, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, people kind of say that he's from the timeline in which the hero failed.
Yeah, I actually really love that the timeline is allowed to exist. It's like the Nier. It's like, why don't we just go ahead and see what the hell would have happened anyway? It's like, yes.
Well, that's kind of like part of a big part of the story in I'm not going to reveal anything, of course, but like a big part of what happens in Breath of the Wild is because of failure. And the reason why the world is the way it is because of that. And it's a kind of a redemption of sorts. And it's thematically, it goes along with kind of the way the series has gone, in that a lot of people were really disappointed with Skyward Sword. In particular. They put in a lot of effort into that game, but people had moved on from that style of design. And they didn't want to play that kind of game anymore. They wanted Nintendo to progress. So this game is redemption incarnate. It's not only redemption for the characters, but it's also redemption for a series. And it ends up being probably the best one ever made. It has flaws. I mean, everything has flaws. I mean, you're not going to make a flawless game. I'm not going to say that it's the perfect game, but goddamn, it's such a good one that what are you going to complain about? I mean, it's so good.
Well, from what I hear, if you have the Switch cartridge specifically, it'll leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Well played.
Yeah.
Well played. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait for DLC to come out. I think that the game that they made, it can be kind of like the Fallout games and the other like Bethesda games, because what's cool about this gigantic world is that you could do all kinds of things with it. You can make it a hub for making other games, like whole other games that take place in this whole land, and you can just kind of like shape it in the image that they want and tell other stories with it. So I think that it is ripe to have really good DLC later on. I think you can even make a Majora's Mask inspired game work really well in it, because it's an open world where you could do a lot of things. Could you imagine if it was like a clockwork world like in Majora's Mask? Like, what that game could be so epic. It could be so cool to see what kind of clockwork things could happen. They even played with that a little bit, because there are a couple quests that only happen during certain times of the day. Because people are doing different things during those parts of the day.
Sure.
But they could really double down on it and do something similar. I think that would be really neat. And I'm looking forward to see what they do with it, because it would be a shame if they built all of this stuff and just kind of did nothing else with it, because they have an infrastructure for doing other stuff. So I look forward to it. Great game. It's kind of like Mad Max Fury Road for me. Like, when that came out, it was just like, well, shit, what do I do now? This was so good, I don't want anything else, right? You know what I mean? Like it was just that good. And I never expected Fury Road to be able to beat something that was mythologized in my mind, Road Warrior.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. Road Warrior was so good that, like, it's the movie of the trilogy that everybody remembers. It inspired, Fist of the North Star, like, the entire Fallout series. Like, where do you go from there? But but then Fury Road just bulldozes everything.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a question. Yeah. When I saw it, I come out of that going, "Holy shit, they did it!"
Yeah,
like you know what I mean, and it was just that good. And people will look back at Fury Road as the next thing to beat, right? Yeah. So Skyward, Breath of the Wild is very much the same kind of thing to me. I play through it and I'm like, God damn, like I don't like. As much as I love Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, those are all my favorites. Before this one, just like everybody else. I mean, Twilight Princess was my favorite, but I don't even want to go back to it. Like, I would much rather play this game and keep finding out the secrets in it. Not that I won't ever go back to another Zelda game ever again, of course not. But of course I'm going to play the classic ones again, but. This is just so good. I look forward to seeing what else they'll do. I mean, they tried it out with Link Between Worlds, which was also fantastic. On another one of my favorites in the series, and I look forward to what they're going to do in the future. I mean, I don't know how they can even. I'm not even going to try to think that they might even try to top it.
Link's Crossbow Training 2. Tingle 3.
Faces of Gamelon 2. But
yes.
Hotel Mario 3. Having said that, I am glad that the Switch is getting some other love. Finally, some other two other great games came out in the meantime in the last 2 weeks. Puyo Puyo Tetris being one of them. And this is a game that I had wanted to import for the Vita for a long time. It also came out on PS3, but they came out with a Switch version here in America, and it is the perfect kind of game for the Switch. I mean, just imagine being able to play Puyo Puyo or Tetris with your friends, like on the go, very easily. Yeah. I think that's really cool. It has a really stupid story about an alien that comes to Earth and shoots Tetris blocks at Puyo Puyo girls. It's just...
I didn't realize it was a story. I thought it was just freaking Puyo Puyo and Tetris.
I heard the story, and I have no idea how. I had no idea how they would make a story about Tetris.
So, that's actually the doing of Puyo Puyo, because Puyo Puyo, for anybody who's followed this series for a long time, has always had pretty much always had a story.
Oh, I had no idea.
The only Puyo Puyo story I know is Kirby Avalanche.
Well, Kirby's Avalanche had a story.
I know.
And so did the Genesis version. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine had a story, too.
Oh, that's right.
So almost every Puyo Puyo game has had a story. So this falls right along with it, because it's Compile and Sega that's making Puyo Puyo Tetris. So they came out with characters that represent Tetris, because there's always been characters that represent Puyo Puyo. You know, cute girls, cute anime girls is Puyo's thing. So it's great. I mean, I played a marathon round of Tetris and I beat it. It's like 150 lines you need to get. So I still have it. Still got it.
Oh yeah.
I really like the last version of Tetris that I really loved was Tetris DS. I thought that was a great version, and also a really great platform for it, because you can use one cartridge, and I think you can do it up to 8 players with one cartridge, as long as you have the DSs for it. So great game, and also great presentation. There's like a lot of really cool mini games and stuff like that too. There's a lot of different modes, and it's also like draped in like classic Nintendo love. But this one's really great too. So depending on who makes Tetris, the whatever version of Tetris, you know, it can really affect how good it is. The THQ ones were not very fun. And the EA versions were not very fun, but the Sega ones are usually pretty fun.
No, so you know what my favorite is do you remember the next Tetris for N64?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, number one, that game was... I mean, I know Tetris by definition is kind of a grind, but that game felt grindy, because it's like, to unlock the next monument, you need to get like a billion lines. Yeah. But like, the funny thing is, I think that game's claim to fame is that there is a rant from one of the developers in the code of the game. So if you like, I forgot what the word is for. If you unpack like the ROM data and you just go looking through, you could just find a straight up rant on how like this game sucks, the people I work with suck, and it's just like, oh man. It's just kind of funny for that reason.
So, other than that, I mean, I don't have pretty much anything else to say about Puyo Puyo Tetris other than it's great, and it's, but you know, it's really good for the platform. You know, it facilitates, couch co-op, which is great, or couch gaming, couch multiplayer. So the only other thing I wanted to say is another one great for the platform is I picked up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Hey.
Oh, it's out. Wait, did it just come out?
It came out on Friday.
Oh, okay. Because that's one of the other games that I looked forward to playing on the Switch.
Yeah,
I didn't play Mario Kart 8. I guess was it 8 the one for Wii U too?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to play like any Mario Kart for a long time, and because I know that in Mario Kart 8 they're bringing back the battle mode, which I really liked in N64.
Yeah.
That I'm really looking for. I was really looking forward to playing this Mario Kart.
Yeah, so a lot of people loved Mario Kart 8 for Wii U, but only the people that had Wii U's
That actually had
it.
Wii U's.
Yeah. So a lot of people were saying like the people who played it was probably the best Mario Kart ever.
Yeah, I saw a bit of it played, and it looked gorgeous.
It's a great game, but nobody had the platform to play it.
Yeah.
And this is great because this is an even better version of the game. It improves on the one major flaw of the original version of it, which was that the battle mode was crap.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
But everything else about it was great. It had all kinds of courses from the old games. It had extra characters. It had Link in it. It had great mechanics, great modes, tons of content. So it's here, and most of it's unlocked from the very beginning in this version. And they have all these cool extra characters, a lot of Nintendo fan service. It's not just like the Mario gang anymore, you know, like the Mario Party gang, you know, with like Donkey Kong, Mario, Luigi. It has other characters like the Animal Crossing characters are in it. You can even be a Mii in it.
It makes me feel like they should change the name, kind of like how Super Smash is like all Nintendo characters. They should make it like Super Smash Kart. I don't know, but then they would lose a lot of the people who buy it because
it's
the
a
name.
cachet. I mean, really, all of their party games should involve it should just be fan service games, just like Smash Brothers started.
Like Smash, I cannot even believe how far it's come with how many characters.
Yeah, Mario Party should just be another celebration of Nintendo. You know, all of their big party games where should just be big celebrations and of old Nintendo games and new Nintendo games and everything in between.
Fortune Street kind of, sort of was in terms of bringing back old music and everything like that.
Yeah. But also another great platform for it. I mean, it's so easy to just plop down, put it in kickstand mode, and play two-player.
Yeah.
Because you have the Joy-Cons right there. You could easily just like say, okay, well, we're waiting in line here. Let's set up Mario Kart, and can you imagine that during like a convention? You know, waiting in line and just playing Mario Kart with your friend that you're waiting with. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool because I mean, normally the strategy for waiting in line is just plain wait or have a book or play something by yourself on your 3DS
Magic
or
the
Vita
Gathering.
or whatever. That is true. Magic the Gathering is great until the line starts moving.
Yeah.
If it's a convention specifically and you're like at a line like a million hours early because it's like an autograph line that they just cut off after like 10 people, then yeah, you'll be playing Magic for a while. But when it's actually moving, I think people are better off with their handhelds. So with the multiplayer one of those, that's super cool.
Yeah, so both Puyo Puyo Tetris and Mario Kart, along with some of the other games on like Snipper Clips, are all really great. proofs of concept of this thing, and I can't wait for even more games to come out and use this, and Bomberman too, which by the way just added I don't know whether you saw this, Lotus, but they added Pyramid Head as a
I
character.
did hear about
Wait,
that. Like,
really?
Yeah,
Like a
because
cartoony
Konami's
Pyramid
bringing it
Head.
back. Yeah,
That's
that's like, on
Hilarious.
one hand, it's kind of funny to see like, oh, Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. On the other hand, Bomberman is like this party game for all ages, and Pyramid Head's this violent, rapey monster. It's just like,
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's gonna rape all the other Bombermen. And,
yeah, it's like, Jesus
and
Christ,
kill their
dude.
wife.
Yeah, and kill their wife like 3 times. It's just like, Jesus. That's the guy I want in my party game.
And just real quick, I'm gonna finish up here. I went to round 1. One of our favorite mainstay places to go with my girlfriend, and it was great going as a couple. I never really kind of went to this kind of thing, with her before. And it was really fun because she's not like a huge gamer, but she played a lot when she was younger. She played like Crash Bandicoot and a lot of other games when she was younger. But she had a blast. We played air hockey together.
Nice.
I won her from one of the claw machines. What's great about round 1 is the claw machines are actually like winnable. They're not easy, but they are winnable.
Oh yeah, I've seen Mr. Ryu win a bunch of stuff for other people. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I won her a My Little Pony plush, Rainbow Dash to be specific. I played some Dodonpachi Daiojo, which is a great game. We played Luigi's Mansion, the arcade version.
That game is surprisingly difficult for a freaking Luigi game.
It's a really difficult game. It's surprising. And probably the highlight of it was that we did 3 things in particular. We played Dark Escape, which is that Namco 4D horror game.
I wouldn't mind that game so much if they didn't blow out your ears with a friggin' volume every time a jump scare happens, which is all the time.
It was great because my girlfriend really got into it, and she was getting scared, but was into getting scared. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
She was into it for the ride and loved it, and it was a lot of fun. We did a photo booth together too. We don't have many pictures of us.
Oh, did you beat photo booth?
Yeah. But it was really cool because they have like Japanese style photo booths that are really fun. And we did that, and we also played skee ball together. So it was a lot of fun. I got to do some couple things there, and it was a lot of fun.
It sounds like you did more than a couple of things.
Yeah. But having said that, I will move on to the weigh-in. So I have been kind of really lax with things lately, and I haven't really been into progressing with my weigh-in. And I really need to get back on track. I kind of lost my way with it. So I'm at 226. So I need to get back on track because I've been doing like a lot of fun things lately, and it's also after Easter. So a lot of candy and stuff like that. So my weight hasn't fluctuated a ton, but it's not moving in the right direction. So I want to get back on track. I need to join a gym. I haven't been to a gym since I moved to my apartment. So I need to get back on track. So I'm aware that I feel like I haven't been putting in the effort. I've also been eating out a lot and not cooking enough for myself, mostly because I get home late and my job is a very stressful one. So it. When I come home, it's there mainly for me to decompress and make sure that I can move on to taking on the next day. So I need to remind myself that taking care of myself is very important and will also help me feel better overall. So I need to get back on track. But I have these weigh-ins to keep reminding me to do so. So I'm going to continue with them. I'm going to continue doing the weigh-ins. I want to continue to remind myself that I need to go in a certain direction. So it's doing its job. So I will report next week with how I do with it.
Okay.
Okay. So let's move on to questions.
Sure. Well, our next question is from Dracologist. When you play some sort of game, do you prefer player death sequences as simple, like in DMC where Dante's just like, and just falls down? Or something like more brutal, like Brutal Doom, where if you get caught by a Baron of Hell, he uses you as a wishbone. Like, you know how even in the new Bethesda Doom, like there's usually an overly elaborate sequence where you get killed, although you, I think, are allowed to skip it. So what do you guys prefer? Just kind of like blah, characters dead and you move on with your life, or a more elaborate, potentially violent sequence?
I think it depends on the game. I know this is like a cop-out answer, but like with Doom, it feels like part of the game.
Sure.
It's like how brutal it is. So it's like those are your deaths. Whereas in a game and it depends like on how fast paced and meticulous it is. Like let's put in the Dark Souls games. When you die, it just says you died.
You died.
And then you start over again. Because if it was any longer, it would get really, really obnoxious.
Because of how often you die. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a game where you're gonna die a lot is really annoying. Like for example, in a lot of the Mega 10 games, when you die, it's just like the character falls over and it gives you game over, but there's always this like series of text that gets said about, I don't know what, it's about you dying. And luckily you can skip it, because if you couldn't skip it, that'd be really obnoxious, because you die a lot in those games. So
you usually can make a deal with the devil, right?
That's only in the 3DS one.
Yeah, okay.
Gotcha. But it's either way. It's if they're gonna have death scenes again, just like most videos, we've talked about this before, make it skippable. But also how crazy they are, I think, really has to fit with the game.
Yeah, no, I very much agree. I will definitely take skippable, and if we're going elaborate, at least make them quick. Like, don't give me this like giant unskippable sequence which looks amazing once, and then you keep dying and you lose your mind. I'm definitely down with the more basic drop-dead sequences. I could even see in, not that I've played Persona, but as that's a turn-based RPG, it would be weird for any kind of overly elaborate death sequence. It's just like, no, your character on your little tactic screen falls down and you lose. Like, certain games just lend more to the more elaborate deaths than others. Now, in adventure games, you should never see the same death sequence twice, because it's usually because you triggered something, as opposed to like you lost a fight. So with those, I like seeing whatever the hell they have to offer. One of my favorites, I think, I've seen
like the quest games are really good with that.
Exactly.
Quest.
Now, actually, speaking of which, I've seen 2 death sequences, both of them technically way too violent, but one of them was all implication. In the game Laura Bow, Dagger of Amon-Ra, there's like one particular death sequence where a bunch of flesh-eating, I don't know, ants or scarabs or beetles just straight up like eat you and turn you into a skeleton, and it's just like, holy shit, like it's pretty brutal. Whereas in King's Quest VI, one of my favorite death sequences is completely non-violent, but that's okay, because you know exactly what happened. You guys never played King's Quest VI, have you?
I haven't.
No.
Okay, well, there's a part where you're in a maze with a minotaur, because King's Quest VI is very reminiscent. Well, all the King's Quest games actually are pretty reminiscent of like fairy tales or things you've probably heard somewhere before. So you got the minotaur maze, and there's one part, it turns out the labyrinth is actually 2 floors. So you descend to the 2nd floor. However, the room you land in the 2nd floor, or the sub-basement, I guess, is pitch black. And what you're supposed to do is, I hope you brought a tinderbox with you. And the game does hint that you should. It's not an unfair sequence. But you're supposed to light your tinderbox, and then you could just move on with the dungeon like nothing happened. If you don't, until you light the tinderbox, all you see, remember, as good as the game looks, it is like mid to late 90s. So like... The graphics are kind of basic by today's standards. So in the pitch black, you have 2 white pixels that represent your character's eyes. And every once in a while, they kind of dart around, looking around nervously. And if you move your character, they kind of go with them. But what's interesting is, like, you are given more than enough time to light the tinderbox. But if you don't, you hear like the clomping of the Minotaur's hooves, and the narrator's like, "Uh-oh, like sounds like something's around here. Like you better do something." And it gives you like one more chance after that. Like, "Oh, sounds like he's getting closer." But if you wait long enough, you don't see what enters the room, even though it could only be the Minotaur. But all of a sudden, Alexander's eyes just start moving around wildly, like he's engaged in combat. But all of a sudden, the eyes just stop and stare at the center of the screen, or the eyes just stop and stare directly at the camera, like when you first enter the room. But all of a sudden, they just go flying in different directions, and you're like, "Whoa!" Like, and it's only 2 white pixels, but it's like that's crazy. So it was definitely an interesting thing to see. It was violent without being violent in the slightest.
So I actually am a big fan of elaborate and creative death sequences. I think my love for these kinds of things has always kind of spawned from the continue screens in a lot of 90s arcade games. So in particular, the ones from like Final Fight, where he's like, your character is like bound and has
it's like dynamite or something.
Dynamite is about to kill them.
Didn't the old Ninja Gaiden?
Ninja Gaiden is the most brutal.
Yeah, there's a buzzsaw coming toward you.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden is a straight up buzzsaw.
It's like a freaking James Bond sequence.
Saws him in half. Yeah, if you don't.
You don't see it happen, but that's what happens.
Well, yeah, but there's really, like, it goes red.
Yeah,
like, the whole screen goes
Instead
red.
of fade to black, it's fade to red, so you're like, ooh.
Yeah. I love stuff like that, and one of my favorite games of all time that is kind of an uncommon choice is a game called, and Lotus has watched me play this, is Heart of Darkness for PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
I never got far in that game because I thought it was really hard.
That game is really hard.
It's a hard game. It's a really hard game, but I love it, and I play that game probably about as much as I play Snatcher. Like, every once in a while, I just play it to play it. So, like, probably once a year, I play that game just to play it. Because you could probably beat that game in one sitting. I did with Lotus,
that's
an extended sitting.
Even when you knew what you were doing, that was a long sitting, though, because that game's freaking rough.
Yeah,
I would go with 2 or 3 sittings.
Yeah. If you don't know what you're doing, you could probably play that game for a couple weeks. But
that's true.
But anyway, the deaths in that game are extremely creative and interesting and brutal, and like you have to wonder about the people who made it, because this is a child.
Well, the thing is, though, it's brutal, but it's bloodless. So they'll have they'll have a thing where like the kid's hanging from a cliff, and like a creature will grab his leg and pull, and then snap him back toward him. Like the kid stretches like a rubber band. It's very cartoony, and then the creature just like swallows him whole. So it's like, that's terrifying, but a kid could watch it, So it's stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have a monster that swallows him whole and just has his shoe hanging out of his mouth. But my favorite death of Andy in the game is there are these like grub worms that are like in the wall. That you're climbing on, and they can grab you or grab at you, and one of them just can grab Andy, pull him into its hole, and you just hear a snap. And
that was actually rough, because that's where his legs are sticking out, but all of a sudden they go super stiff, and you're like, oh, like he definitely got his top half bitten off, no doubt.
Or his spine was snapped, or whatever.
Yeah, like something happened, and it was awful. I forgot about that one. Actually,
so it's very violent, but not in the way you expect.
Now, actually, in terms of, I mean, I guess we're not counting game over sequences, but in terms of straight up death sequences, well, for game over, I gotta go with System Shock 1. That's just freaking dark. Like when your body's hanging down from the cyber spider legs, and you're one of them now. But
I love that. Yeah.
For straight up death sequences, though, I gotta give 2 shout outs. One, of all games in the world, because this isn't one that usually comes to my mind, Dead Space 2. There's a particular enemy. It's basically like a head crab thing. It's like this bug thing, where if it kills you, it devours your head and then kind of like crawls into your neck hole and takes over. Like, it becomes your head, and you start walking around really poorly. You start shambling. It's like, wow. But I gotta go with almost everything in like Resident Evil 4, I think, set the standard
Yeah.
for elaborate death sequences. Probably the one most people remember, because you know what happened to them, is when you first fight the chainsaw guy. Because, you know, oh, it's an enemy, but this time he has a chainsaw. I'll keep my distance. And then you realize he just doesn't go down, and also he's an insta-kill. But that sequence is fucking terrible, because he starts, like, sawing into your neck, and you really can't do anything about it, so you try grabbing at the chainsaw with your hands, because what else are you going to do? But you're grabbing a chainsaw with your hands. It is shockingly violent. And this was a GameCube exclusive for a little while. It's like, this is a Nintendo property. Like, wow! The other one I want to go with is a much more, in my opinion, well, it's debatable, but I take it as more grotesque than that. But it's a less common death sequence to see, because it requires a very specific thing to happen. There are these large, disgusting insect enemies that are really easy to kill. So that's one reason you probably won't die to them, unless you just get ambushed by a million. But they have a particular attack where they jump onto you and just have this weird acid vomit. Dude, if that kills you, it is gross. Because, like, they basically reduce your face to, like, a skull, but there's definitely, like, flaps of skin hanging off. Like, it's nasty. Like, I did not expect that, even after having seen the beginning of Resident Evil 4. Like, it's bad. Or, like, the Gara door with his Wolverine claws, where he just impales you through the face, and it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Like the Resident Evil 4 is freaking nasty. But again, I don't mind those sequences because they're really quick. Like, same goes for Resident Evil 2. They have elaborate sequences, but they go on and move on with their lives. So, like, I guess it comes back to what Pyro said. It really depends on the game. Some games really shouldn't have elaborate sequences, but some, it's almost like a reason to play the game. Like Corpse Party. The wrong ends are not just game overs. Like, they have a tally for wrong ends. Yeah, Weird Dreams. It's almost worth losing that game every 5 seconds to see how you get eaten, because everything in that game is a freaking mouth. It's definitely interesting.
I would say, just like you guys have been saying, like, it, as long as it is quick, and like if you die often, like, and as long as it's either quick or you could skip it. One thing I wanted to mention was one thing that immediately sprung to mind, and this is probably the last one before we move on. Mm-hmm. In Halo, I always enjoyed when a Covenant would kill you and then would laugh and taunt the player.
Oh, dude, Mad Dog McCree all the time. They just point and laugh.
I love it when bad guys are dicks to you.
It's really funny
because it gives you a visceral reaction, because you definitely want to beat them the next time.
Yeah, actually, the game I hear was best at this was Shadow of Mordor, because every time a bad guy would kill you, he would get promoted, like, within his clan for having killed the hero. So not only are there consequences for your death, but now you have an actual rivalry with the particular enemy who killed you, which is pretty awesome.
Yep. So I think we can move on to the next one.
Sure, one more.
This one
is a short question, but I think this can go deep. The Fool Arcana asks, why do you think social media is as toxic as it can sometimes be?
I have a good reaction to this one, and I just wanted to kind of express it, because I put a lot of thought into it. I think the internet is very much and social media by extension is very much an extension of like high school emotional responses to things. So because of that, you're gonna meet all kinds of different people. But just like in high school, if there's that one kid that gets picked on by everybody. You knew this kid, everybody picked on this kid. Even, like, the people that got picked on by other people sometimes picked on this kid, too. It kind of happens that way on social media, too. Like, people, negative emotions are very addictive. For whatever reason, I don't know the psychology of it, but negative emotions are very easy to fall into. So beating up on somebody who is vulnerable is, for some reason, attractive sometimes to some certain types of people. Well, so therefore, this kind of toxic stuff can go on, where like I'm thinking particularly of Gamergate, where Gamergate they singled out one particular person and bullied her to the point where it's insane. Like she didn't do anything worth what happened to her. First of all, I'm not on the side of anybody who was flinging any kind of vitriol towards her, but what happened to her was completely unfair and disgusting, in fact, and I would go far to say, and all of the fallout that happened as a result is completely ridiculous, and I have no problem saying that, but I think it's because negative emotions are easy to grab onto. I think there's just a part of us that maybe because of social standings or anything like that, we're naturally inclined to be selfish in that regard. We have to learn not to be selfish. Good people are made. Not necessarily born. I think a lot of times we learn social niceties. We learn how to talk and interact with other people to not make them mad, or to work well with them, or to interact in a way in which is favorable. We learn these things. We start off, being as toddlers wanting everything for ourselves and hogging it, and maybe that's the nature of things, right? To be self-serving in order to survive. But we live in a world where we don't have to do that, right? A lot of us don't.
Well, I guess there's also potentially the matter where humans are also those social creatures, but like it's almost like your job. Like I can work with you, but I don't have to like you.
Yeah, so I think those negative emotions kind of come from a primal instinct to pick on somebody to reassert, a social position. And it's not a good thing from the standpoint of, hey, wow, these people are being pieces of shit to this other person. But it may just be a natural part of us that a lot of us, the people that think that's ridiculous have learned to suppress. So I'm not saying everybody's like this, and I'm not, there's some generalization here. But I think there is an inclination towards this negative behavior, and the internet just shows it.
But actually, speaking of which, I was going to piggyback off of that. I would go... I agree that this stuff happens and always has happened, and the internet just shows it. But the internet, I would also say, arguably allows it to go a step further, because, the kid who gets picked on or whatever, he could become, like what people now derisively say, like an internet badass.
Sure.
On forums where you are anonymous or under an alias, you could hide behind that anonymity. But even if you're on something like
or even just far away, like
no, that's what I was going to say. Even
somebody.
If it's Facebook, even if it's Facebook and you're using your real name, it's like, well, I can't see you, so like, even though you know my name, whatever, like you're an asshole.
What kind of recourse do you have for shooting an arrow from like 1,000,000 miles away?
That's the thing. Like you're an internet badass to somebody, and they have little choice but to go away or be an internet badass back to you. So everyone's just slinging shit, real name or not at this point. Because when Facebook first came around, it's like, ooh, our real names. But now it's like, whatever. I'm in New Jersey. You're in I don't even know where. Like, well, let's see what happens.
I think that's what I really feel like it is the potential anonymity, and also the fact that you are not looking at this person face to face. Like the people who are passive aggressive prefer not to make arguments with people seeing them face to face, but if they have the screen that is protecting them, they don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, there's no chance it'll come to blows at that point because you can't.
Yeah, we also don't have all the tools either. We don't have facial expressions are a major part of how we express things to one another, and we don't have that for the majority of our internet interaction. It's all text. So therefore, like interpretation of certain, like they've done in-depth psychological studies, and it's very difficult to even see what emotion somebody's expressing with just eyes.
Yeah, you have to like freeze frame little tweaks. Face. Yeah,
you need a whole face. You need the mouth and the eyes, let's say, and the cheeks to understand, and even like the position of the face,
the scrunching of the forehead
to the head. Exactly. So we use all of these things coupled with what's being said to us and how it's being said to us, and we process all of these things, and this is how things are communicated. Well, we lose all that. We lose our ability to defend ourselves with our emotions too. We can't defend ourselves. We can't give somebody a nasty look while they're saying something, let's say, to tell them to back off. Even if there's no major recourse for disobeying that look is still an important thing that people react to. Most people, when they get a dirty look while somebody's saying something like that, will most likely stop it.
Like I'm giving you right now.
Exactly. But you know what I'm talking about, right? You know, like...
and I want to build off of that and say, like, another thing is we are, in a way, you could say we're trained for these social cues in person, because we go to school in person. Most people are raised by their parents in person, let's say. Computers and technology are still new in the sense that we don't use them enough and are trained to be social through computers. So people don't always know how to act on the internet or when they can't see a person.
And not to mention, sometimes there's straight up, like they will tell you, like, I'm not sure if you're joking or not, or something like that.
Also, there's another tendency to, even more so than real life, I would say, in physical life, I should say, because, this is real life too. In physicality, we have a tendency of having friends that are similar to us. Therefore, we get this line of thinking that everybody kind of thinks like us, even though it's far from the truth, because you only hang out with people you like. But with the internet, I think it's even more magnified. You get these gigantic groups of people that think alike. And then you start to think that it's okay to act like a jerkface because everybody else in this group is acting this way. It gets distilled. And you don't hang out with any other groups either. So you don't know that there's another opinion and that they think that you're a piece of shit, and that you should be stopping the way that you're acting. And that's what I think what a lot of social movements come from. I think there's a lot of insulated, isolated groups of people that kind of got together and got magnified. And in a physical space, you don't have that kind of choice of whether you want to weed people out or not. You can't kick people out of a real room as easily as you could kick people out of a chat room that you don't like. You know what I mean?
That's true. It's way too easy to just like take somebody out of your life, like with a block button or a ban or whatever.
Exactly. Like, if we ran a forum, let's say, we could pick and choose who we wanted to hang out there.
Which by the way, exacerbates the problem because it creates an echo chamber as well.
Well, yeah, but, in small spaces, it's less of a problem. When it gets big, that's when it's an issue. But, in a physical space, you kind of put up with people that have different opinions than you. And you kind of are better for it sometimes because you hear something different, right? And so you at first might not like that person, but then you kind of grow to understand them, even if you don't agree with them. Because everybody's a person, right? So you kind of just want to get along with them, unless they're acidic, unless they're venomous,
caustic,
bad. Yeah, caustic is a better word, but so I think that's why social media is like that. It's because people have the power to distill the things that they like, and it may not necessarily be good for them. If that makes sense. But I think without further introspection, I think that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, I think so.
And with having said that, I think we can wrap up for the week. It's great to be back. I actually kind of missed not being here last week, even though I think you guys did a great job. And I enjoyed listening to your ribbings of me.
Yeah, it's something that it's something I didn't really think about, but it is pretty entertaining to hear like just what people say about you when you're off the
Yeah,
like
because
whenever
that
we're like,
they're
oh,
going to
Pyro
listen
got
to
fired,
it.
or whenever you're like, yeah, and like I'm the one editing it, so you're just like talking to me about the facts like during the cast. Like, okay.
Yeah, I actually most enjoyed that because I knew absolutely that you were going to hear it, and that you were gonna be laughing while like cutting it out and stuff.
Yeah, so. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. But I want to thank our fans that contributed questions this week. Keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own in the YouTube and Soundcloud pages. And while there, give us some thumbs up, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. By the way, I did want to say that we received our first rating on iTunes, and it was a 5-star. I really want to thank. I wanted to thank the contributor who gave us a 5-star rating. But I didn't want to make a huge big deal about it, but it means a lot to us. So I really do appreciate anybody who goes the extra length to give us a rating on iTunes and everywhere else. It really does make us feel good and keeps us knowing that we're doing something good here. So help us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement like that keeps the show going. You can catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as Vyse the Bold, VYSETHEBOLD, on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, and Twitter. And I also want to thank you guys for doing my plugs for me, even though I wasn't here. That was great.
All right,
plugs, guys.
Lotus, why don't you go?
Why, sure. You can always follow me on YouTube. My channel is simply called Lotus Prince, and you can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince, all one word.
And like usual, you can find me as Power Jack Frost on places, and if I'm not there, I don't care.
Screw off.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.